We are Great Promise for American Indians. The mission of Great Promise for American Indians is to preserve the traditions, heritage, and culture of American Indians, and to support the health and education needs of their youth and families. We do this to honor the past and ensure the future.
Thank all y'all for being here today. We're very happy to be here, and we have a show for you. We got these beautiful dancers, and every one of them is going to come out and dance and show you their different dance styles. And today we're celebrating Native American people in Texas. Native American people are not just something from history books. They are alive and well and have a thriving culture. In fact, I'll bet some of you in the audience are Native American. Chances are there's going to be Native American people all around you. But first, we're going to get started with a really special one. This was called the Northern Traditional Dance, and this sort of embodies the spirit of the warrior. So let's get right into men's traditional. Turn this mic over to somebody who knows a lot more about this than I do. Introducing Dr. Tony Satok.
Tony Satok Mule Lacan, Goema Ada. My name is Tony Satok Mule. I'm Kiowa. And so what I'm wearing is a traditional dress for the girls and the women. This is a Kiowa buckskin dress. And it's made entirely out of deer skin. So what I'm going to share with you is a slow dance. This is the women's traditional.
Hehana Washte, that means good morning, Lakota. So I am Melanie, and I'm from North Dakota, from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And this is Tanya. She's also from North Dakota, from the Hidatsa tribe. And we're going to dance women's cloth dance. As trade started, we started coming across different kinds of materials. Tanya's wearing a wool dress. It's better for wintertime when it's a little bit cooler because it is very warm. And she also has elk teeth. It's because if you came from a family of hunters, the better of a hunter you were, the more elk teeth you would have on your dress. This is a cloth dress. So thank you, guys.
let's bring out our men's chicken dance.
I am a prairie chicken dancer. It's a Blackfoot Sissica dance. It's a courtship dance. So the style that I dance, I'm trying to attract a female, a mate. It's kind of showy, be like, hey, look at me, look how I'm dancing. So just to kind of get that attention.
So what I'm going to have you do is listen very closely to the sound of these beautiful jingles, see, hanging from her dress. A story goes way back at a time when there was a grandfather who had, his granddaughter was very ill, and so he, through prayer and meditation, he was told, here are the songs, sing them this way, and here is the dress, this is how you make it. And they'll make a sound that will bring healing. Ladies, jingle. All right, let's bring out our fancy shawl. And I'm going to let Amy tell you all about the ladies' fancy shawl.
All right, my name is Amy Tallman. I'm a Northern fancy shawl dancer. Women's fancy shawl dance is one of the faster dances. And you'll find a lot of young ladies who have a lot of energy to burn doing this dance because it's fun.
Hi, my name is Jay Mule. I am Choctaw. Today I'm going to be showcasing what's called the Fancy War Dance. During the end of the Wild West, as times were changing, they began to put on these Wild West shows. They wanted to make it more exciting. They wanted to make it more flashier. It mimics that show horse they've seen long ago, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Very good, Jay. Thank you. All right, so one thing I want to do today is thank y'all for being such a good audience. You might be one of the best audiences we ever had, paying attention. So thank you. Give yourselves a big hand right now for being such a good audience. And we're going to take this out. We've had such a great time with y'all today. Thank you very much.
Hi, kids. Welcome to the Museum of Native American History. I'm Tiny Tusker, and I have a story to share with you. It's one of my favorites. Are you ready? Great, because it's story time.
Osio Nagad. Hello, friends. My name is Gail Ross, and I am an enrolled citizen of the Cherokee Nation, the second largest Indian tribe in the country, second only to our Navajo brothers and sisters in the Southwest. I live in Cherokee country, Cherokee County, Oklahoma, 17 miles north of Tahlequah, which is our national capital, where our government is, where many of our museums are. And I'm going to share a couple of traditional Cherokee stories with you. Now, the first story I want to tell is about a guy we tell a lot of stories about. His name is Gistu, Rabbit. You see, in the beginning days, all creatures spoke the same language, and the animal people had a society that was very much like Cherokee's society. They had stomp dances, they had ball games, and Rabbit, well, he was always in trouble. He was in trouble because he talked all the time. He never stopped talking. He was in trouble because he loved to play tricks, although usually his tricks backfired and he ended up hurting himself. Like the time he made Bear so mad, Bear grabbed that long, beautiful, bushy tail that Creator gave Rabbit and broke it off. That's why you don't see rabbits with long, bushy tails. Now, one of the things about the way Rabbit talked all the time was that's how he got his job. You see, the animals had a tribal council, just like the tribal council of the people. Very important, the tribal council. Just ask them, they'll tell you. And Rabbit was the messenger for the tribal council. It was his job at the end of every council meeting to go out and tell everyone the news. But you know, even though he worked for the tribal council, they wouldn't allow him inside the council house because he talked all the time. They'd never get any work done. So they made him sit outside the door. And he was sitting outside the door one day. It's a beautiful sunny day in summer. There was a boring old council meeting going on inside, and Rabbit was sitting outside the door. Now, there was going to be a dance that night. Rabbit loves dances, free food, pretty girls. So he had his rattle with him, and he thought he'd just sing a little, loosen up his voice. So he made him up a little song. He sang, Gistu, Gistu, nasta, nay. Gistu, Gistu, nasta, nay. Gistu, Gistu, adahi. Gistu, Gistu, adahi. Gistu, Gistu, natane. Rabbit, rabbit, what's that sound? Gistu, Gistu, adahi Rabbit, rabbit is here. And the louder he sang, the better he felt. And the better he felt, the louder he sang. Until inside the council house, they couldn't hear themselves think. Eagle is the head of the council. He looked down at the little sergeant-at-arms, that's Bullfrog, and he said, "You go out there, you tell that fool I said to be quiet." So Bullfrog puffed himself up as big as he could. He hopped outside. There was Rabbit shaking his rattle and singing. Bullfrog jumped up, knocked the rattle out of Rabbit's hand. Rabbit stopped singing, looked down. Bullfrog looked up and said, "Eagle says, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet." And he hopped back inside. Rabbit watched him go and said, "Cute little fella. Gee-stew, na-da-snay. Gee-stew, na-da-snay. Gee-stew, ah-da-hee. Gee-stew, ah-da-hee." Inside, Eagle looked down at Bullfrog and said, "Oh yeah, you showed him." Fox, you go out there. You make him be quiet. So Fox went out there. There was Rabbit shaking the rattle and singing. Fox reached out, grabbed Rabbit's right arm, and popped it off. And the rattle fell to the ground. Fox said, "I'll give these back to you, when the council meeting is over." And she stuck Rabbit's arm in her pocket, headed back inside. Rabbit waited till the door closed behind her and then, Gee-stew, na-da-snay. Gee-stew, na-da-snay. Gee-stew, ah-da-hee. Gee-stew, ah-da-hee. Inside, Eagle looked around. Somebody bigger than Fox. Wolf, you go out there. You make him be quiet. So Wolf went out there. There was Rabbit, shaking his rattle and singing. Wolf reached out, grabbed his left arm, and popped it off. "Dude," Eagle said, "dude, I'll give it back to you when the meeting is over." And he stuck Rabbit's arm in his pocket, headed back inside. Rabbit waited till he had gone away, and then he said, Gee-stew, na-da-nay. Gee-stew, na-da-nay. Singing, keeping time with his foot. Inside the council house, Eagle said, "Bear, you go out there. You make him be quiet." So Bear went out there. There's Rabbit, singing, keeping time with his foot. Bear reached out, grabbed both Rabbit's legs, and popped them off. And Rabbit fell to the ground. Bear said, "I'll give these back to you when the council meeting is over." And he stuck Rabbit's legs in his pocket, headed back inside. As soon as he had gone away, Rabbit, looking up at the blue sky and the clouds overhead, said, Gee-stew, na-da-nay. Gee-stew, na-da-nay. Singing, keeping time with his head. Inside the council house, Eagle said, "If you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself." So Eagle goes out there. There's Rabbit lying on the ground, singing, keeping time with his head. Eagle reached down, grabbed Rabbit's head, and popped it off. I'll give this back to you when the council meeting is over. And he stuck Rabbit's head in his pocket, headed back inside. But the door had barely closed when they heard, very faint, "Cheese stew, nada, nay." They couldn't believe it. Everybody rushed outside. They gathered around that brownish, grayish, furry jelly bean thing looking on the ground. Eagle put his head down and listened. Then he looked up at the others and he said, "He's singing with his heart." "Oh," said Bear. He took out Rabbit's legs. He popped them on, stood him up. Fox and Wolf put his arms back. Eagle popped his head back. They gave him back his rattle. You see, the all-wise, all-powerful, all-knowing tribal council learned a lesson from that silly rabbit. And I hope it's what you will remember whenever you think of this story. You have a voice. And your voice is an important part of who you are in the world. It shows how you care about people, what you believe in, what you stand up for. So as you grow, lend your voice only to the truth. Let it come from your heart. And they can take you apart one piece at a time, but they'll never silence your voice. I hope you've enjoyed the stories you've heard today from the Cherokee people. I want to thank the Museum of Native American History for making this storytelling series possible. Again, my name is Gail Ross, and I want to say, Wado. Thank you.
Anakut ek bile meha yagne ma isla chica mecha alpise kano mecha eti falameche kiyo.
Welcome to the Chickasaw Nation. Today we will share a brief glimpse of our past, present, and future with you. From archaeological history, we know Chickasaw tribes settled villages up and down the Mississippi River and traded extensively with other tribes from the 1200s to the 1500s. The Chickasaws first encountered Europeans in the mid-1500s when Hernando de Soto and his small army spent the winters of 1540 and 1541 in an abandoned Chickasaw village. Angered by de Soto's treatment of their women and demands for labor, the Chickasaws launched a nighttime assault on de Soto and his army. They quickly fled, and our reputation as unconquerable warriors became well known. It was not again until the late 1600s before we would encounter Europeans again. From 1670 through the Revolutionary War was a difficult time for the Chickasaws due to the influx of Europeans. We relocated to the area now known as Tupelo, Mississippi. We banded together with other tribes in order to take a stand against Europeans. We were fighting for our sovereignty and cultural existence. As the United States developed and the British gave way, our Minko Piamingo traveled to the United States Capitol and met with the new president, George Washington. This began an era characterized by written records, the advent of the Chickasaw Nation, and the United States relationship. Under the leadership of Piamingo, the Chickasaws signed the Treaty of Hopewell in 1786. This was one of the earliest treaties in the United States formed with an American Indian tribe. The 1786 Hopewell Treaty established the nation's first treaty boundaries, protection against trespass, and protocols for the two sovereigns to punish crimes that crossed their boundaries. As a result, peace and a lasting alliance between the two sovereign nations began. The closing decades of the 18th century and the opening of the 19th century were very difficult for the young United States. The Chickasaw Alliance proved beneficial to the United States during the Battle of New Orleans. The United States used the Chickasaw's location in order to establish a foothold in the region. The foothold came at a price for the Chickasaw people. The United States did not want to return the area back to the Chickasaw people. This ultimately led to our forced removal to Indian Territory. By 1830, United States policy was reversed with President Andrew Jackson's removal policy. The growing federal government set forth to remove the Chickasaws and all American Indian tribes from their aboriginal lands. By 1832, the Chickasaw Nation was prepared to negotiate. The Chickasaws are unique in that they were the only tribe to have negotiated their own removal. The Chickasaws were savvy in the terms it would agree to in preparation for removal. One of the many conditions was that the tribe own and have full patented fee title. Also, the removal lands would never be made part of any state. This was a great legal distinction from many other American Indian treaties. Removal lasted from 1836 to 1850. Even with negotiated removal, the Chickasaws were still plagued by hunger, disease, and terrible conditions. Many lives were lost. Once settled in Indian Territory in 1855, a new treaty was entered into that outlined the Chickasaw Nation territory that is still used today to define our nation's boundaries. In addition, the treaty gave the Chickasaw Nation the political right for self-governance. In 1856, the Chickasaw Nation drafted its first constitution. We modeled our system after the federal government. We developed the judicial, executive, and legislative branches of government. Our first elected governor was Cyrus Harris in 1856. The tribe developed quality schools, businesses, and farms. We did not want to merely survive, but demanded to flourish. The American Civil War began and the nation was thrust into upheaval and strife. Following the Civil War, the federal government set forth the Dawes Act of 1887. For nearly 6 decades, Chickasaw governors would be federally appointed with the task of dismantling the Chickasaw Nation. The federal government took control of all tribal operations and property. The Dawes Act, in part, was the creation of tribal roles. Outsiders were now in control of who was considered Chickasaw and of what quantity. In 1907, Governor Douglas Johnston was federally appointed governor of the Chickasaw Nation. Governor Johnston helped to give the Chickasaws a sense of self-governance and aided in protection of enrollment as a result of the Dawes Act. The Chickasaws fought tirelessly to keep their traditions alive through secret meetings, in churches many times. In 1963, John F. Kennedy appointed Chickasaw Governor Overton James. Governor James believed and fought for Chickasaw self-governance and self-determination. In 1975, the Indian Self-Determination Act was passed. As a result, in 1981, Governor James became our first elected governor in almost 6 decades. The Chickasaw Nation distinguished itself in the fields of tribal housing, healthcare, education, and economic development. During Governor James's tenure in office, we see the establishment of the Housing Authority in 1966. In 1972, the Chickasaw Nation's first business endeavor was marked by the purchase of the Chickasaw Motor Inn in Sulphur, Oklahoma.